So we're ready to start again now, and I'd like to just give a brief introduction to our next speaker. Peter Metcalfe is a historian and publisher, and he runs the public market in Juneau, if you've ever been to that, over the Thanksgiving weekend. And he's been a driving force between the Sharing Our Knowledge conference. I don't think that it would have been held if it hadn't been for your efforts, Peter, over the years. So I really appreciate all the work and effort that you've put into this. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Joaqlin. Can you hear in the back? Okay, good. So this project I'm going to describe is in memory of my good friend Andy Hope, who passed away at the age of 57, 14 years ago. And he was the progenitor, the founder of Sharing Our Knowledge conferences. And the black and white, or the black and white photo of Andy in his robe is from the 1993, the first clan conference. And below that is Andy with his late wife, Elizabeth's sister Goodwin, who was Inupiat, and Andy has his daughter Telly Hope in front from an earlier relationship. But Andy and sister are the parents of Ishmael Hope, who many of you have heard about. So this project was conceived through, that's coming up, and it's funded through the Douglas Indian Association. And it's for cataloging and archiving the 350 video recorded Sharing Our Knowledge presentations, that most of which are accessible on our YouTube channel right now, but we have several that are not, which I'll get to in a few minutes. Douglas Indian Association is a growing tribal government in Juneau. By growing, I mean they are recently expanding into new structures, like a lot of tribes around Southeast. They are becoming a more vibrant part of each of the communities where they're located. And they got a major grant. I was called by Dion Latte Kaagwaantaan several months ago, and we conspired to put together a grant for a Department of Education, and they funded DIA got a huge grant, and this is just one small part of it. So I want to briefly explain what the resources are on our website. As you can read in this list, it goes on, and that is hardly an inclusive list. There's, as you know, just looking at your program, all the different types of subject matters we cover, and it's been that way since the very beginning. Joining Andy in organizing this concept was Dick and Nora Downhauer, here seen in, I think this was Kaagwaantaan. We did in 1993 in two communities, Kaagwaantaan and Haines. We switched between buildings. So this project came from a light bulb moment, and wait for it. That's something our late friend Kathy Ruddy would often say when she was trying to describe something. Kathy was a executive director of our organization at one point. So the light bulb moment came through this process where I, as Joaqlin introduced me, she explained that I'm a publisher and historian and video producer. So the Allen family called me up in, I think, 2008 and asked me to do this publication for them, which I produced a couple years later. And what you may not know is that they are the largest whale watching company, perhaps in the world, certainly in Alaska. And the family was composed of Bob and Betty Allen, who subsequently the family requested me to do the lineage, the Tlingit lineage of their family. Now, Bob was raised in central Alaska, and he had a classic childhood in interior Alaska, and dog sleds and fish wheels and learning how to fly and on and on. Bob's father actually serviced river boats on the Yukon. And Betty Martin Allen was raised in Juneau. Many of you will know the Martin family, Bob and Bill Allen, or Martin. Bob Martin Sr. was married to Stella. They lived most of their lives in Cake. Betty was related to them. Bob was her uncle and her maternal uncle. And Betty was Kaagwaantaan and a child of the Daakdaintaan. I want to stop here for a moment because I meant to properly introduce the fact that I'm presenting on Stakteen Kwan land, and I was adopted into the Kiks.adi, 50 years ago now, as it turns out. Andy Ibona's mother, Amy Nelson, adopted me into the Kiks.adi clan in 1972, and they gave me a name, Bushka, which deserves a little explanation. I think most of you who know Tlingit will, I'm not sure there's a B sound in Tlingit, but at the time it didn't make much difference to me. It was what the family knew me as, Bushka. And it turns out it's a Tlingit corruption of a Russian word for cannon. So in other words, they were nicknaming me Pistol Pete. And it was after Amy's brother, Peter Williams, and later, 30 years later, I got the name Kashdaheen Ish, which is essentially father of Indian River and Sitka. So I'm very honored by that. And so in any event, I was hired to trace the lineage of Betty Martin Allen, and it turned out to be a fascinating project. One of her ancestors was Ambrosian Pletnikov, and he was one of the first Russians in Sitka. And because he had a relationship with a Tlingit woman, and in fact, as far as we know, they were married, he was spared from the destruction of the fort. His Tlingit in-laws told him he really should go hunting on this particular day, and he was like uninterested, and they finally convinced him to go hunting. And while he was out in the woods, the fort was destroyed, and every Russian there was killed, and most of the Aleuts as well. And Ambrosian, consequently, was one of the few survivors. And he eventually came back to Sitka, married a Kaagwaantaan woman, and then they had a daughter, Matilda, became known as Tilly, and in her marriage became the Carpenter family, because Pletnikov is Russian for carpenter. And some of you will know, like the Little Fields and of Sitka are related to this family. And so through this descent, Betty Martin Allen's lineage is Kaagwaantaan Daakdaintaan. And Daakdaintaan is, in modern times, headquartered in Hoona. And it was through Herb Martin, Betty's mother, Ruth Martin's husband. They actually shared a name, but it was unrelated by blood. But they raised a family of, I believe, 5. Most of their lives were spent in Juneau. But I didn't know much about the Daakdaintaan clan, so I Googled it. And this is what I came up with. The top one, of course, is Wikipedia. And the next 2 are our Sharing Our Knowledge YouTube site, which, like, then I realized, after I kind of dug into this, we had actually videotaped this, and I was kind of responsible for it. And yet, if I had to Google to get to a resource that we put on our website, we got to do something about that. And that was the light bulb moment. So I realized if I couldn't find something, if I didn't know instantly that we had that on our website, then I need to provide some means by which other people can find it. So this 2.25 hour presentation by Steve Langdon, who's the Dean of Alaska Anthropologists, and Kinney Grant, who's the head of the Dakdane clan of Huna, described everything I needed to know, especially about, and this was particularly fascinating for me, the clan's it's kind of the original site of their clan is Lituya Bay, or it's very important, and most of their crests, several of their crests are about Lituya Bay. The mountain and also the Kittiwake are clan crests that originated in Lituya Bay, and so the Allen Marine family, which is running a bunch of whale watching boats all over Southeast, they also do tours into Glacier Bay, and they were getting a little bit of grief from the National Park Service, and that was sort of the purpose of this book, was to show that they actually had a direct lineal descent that was connected to Lituya Bay and Glacier Bay National Park. So this was a little publication I developed, and that led to this light bulb moment, the project funded by DIA that I'm currently working on. So this is what we have available. Eventually we'll have all of these conferences on our website. And beginning with 1993, which was done in Betacam. You may remember the era of tapes well before digital video. And Andy did 2 conferences in 1996 and 1997 in Saxman and Sitka. He had not enough funding to really do much about that. Put this up. This is 1993. And as you can see in the lower part, recording of all presentations, that was Dan Edelaine, assisted by Sister Goodwin, who was taking notes. And so we got most of it on Betacam videotapes, and through this grant, I've been able to convert the Betacam to digital, and I'm now have organized it. I'm about ready to put it up on the website. Rich material on this. This would be a great addition to our collection of videos and presentations. And I particularly enjoyed the panel discussion of elders. That's Elizabeth Nyman, Mrs. Katzek, Dr. Walter Sobolov, and Matthew Fred. And there's really good stuff there. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that opportunity to view it. So in 2007, we produced probably one of the most extensive conferences that we put on. It ended up in being 37 DVDs with over 125 presenters, including our late friends, Elaine Abraham, Jim Bowen, Scott Carley, Richard and Nora Downhauer, Ellen Hope Hayes, Andy Hope, David Katzek, Ethel Mackinnon, Wally Olson, Walter Porter, George Ramos, Clarissa Hudson Rizal, Terry Rothkar, Gil Truitt. Almost makes you want to weep. So many of those people left us too early. But that's a good cross-section of the presenters that were at that conference. And this is some of the presentations. A lot of things are happening outside the lecture room, such as bringing out the regalia, George Ramos and Ray Wilson. And Andy organized this poetry reading, which I remember his comment on that. It says, "Standing ovations for poetry. Who would have thought?" And then Jessica Chester's young students presented, and it was a big moment for me because I remember hearing Native women, Tlingit women on the sidewalks in Juneau where they were selling moccasins and fur mittens and that sort of thing, sealskin vests, and they spoke to each other in Tlingit, and I was just like 4 or 5 years old, just learning how to speak myself, and it just embedded itself in my memory because I was just fascinated by how the sounds they were making. It was my first, I guess, I went back to early childhood, but that memory of those voices and those children at that 2007 presentation, they were speaking really and vocalizing the Tlingit words much as I had heard as a child. So I really thought at that moment there's hope for restoring the language. And many of you will remember Walter Porter's a great friend of mine, and Preston Singletary, who's an incredible artist, glass artist. That was in 2007. 2009, we did the same thing. We ended up with another 37 volume DVD set, which I have to download. That's one of my project goals. This is a pretty good sampling of what we were able to present there. Then the next one was in Sitka. It was 3 years later. I'm forgetting why we went to 2012, but again, it was just an excellent presentation and gathering of clan leaders. It wasn't really a warming of the hands at that time, but it served that purpose. And then Jessica Chester presenting how she was teaching children. And then Ben Scheifelman and his mother, Jackie Chopert, they were awarding a Tana that Kathy Ruddy, our late friend on the in the blue pullover, she kind of arranged that. And then that was the first, no, it wasn't the first year, but Smithsonian has been a presenter since the earliest days. So we really appreciate their participation. And Eric Hollinger from the Smithsonian Institution has been a present since actually 2007. So we wanted to, from the beginning, Andy's concept was do these conferences every odd number year so that we didn't overlap the celebration, which happens on an even numbered year. And this year, for reasons you all know, COVID, we're not able to keep to the odd year formula. But again, we had a wonderful group of presenters, and Alan Zuboff was there on presenting clan protocol, and Ernestine Hanlon, Diasis, I'm forgetting her first name, Yarrow Barra, examining a hat during our fabric arts was an ongoing thing in the lobby area of Centennial Hall. And then Nathan Jackson and Paul Marks were, I think Paul was kind of honoring Nathan for his wonderful carvings. And then my good friend Carlton Smith presented Shanakawa, and he was mixing it up with on Tlingit language, and the figure is based on a person from whom Carlton got his Tlingit name. So anyway, Shanakawa has long been a feature in Juneau, where Carlton will present them to, especially children, and help them pronounce Tlingit words. And there's Florence Shakely sharing a joke with Shanakawa. Next one was in Juneau again in 2015. Many of you remember our late friend Clarissa Rizal there with Fred White. And then we were invited to the governor's mansion to make a Tlingit literature presentation, and here Lance Twitchell and Ishmael Hope are helping Nora with her Tlingit presentation. I believe she was delivering a poem in Tlingit in that instance. And then we had the first Tlingit International Spelling Bee, and this year I think we'll have what is officially the 5th International Tlingit Spelling Bee. And again, a language workshop, which is a constant feature, or been a feature of all of our Sharing Our Knowledge conferences. So the next one we had was in Sitka, and it was kind of intentional to present during the Sesquicentennial, the 150th year since the Russians sold their interest in Alaska to the United States. And we were able to kind of mark out a presence at that festivity. And before, it had been a little bit uncertain as to local Tlingit participation, but this year, in 2017, we really made a point of saying this should always involve the local Tlingit population. And one of the things we included was a treaty of cession, causes and consequences panel discussion, and we had some really excellent scholars and participants, and that too is recorded on our 2017 channel. And the Han, I think that was our first Atlatl presentation in Sitka, and we're going to have some of that here. Eric was unable to get the spears, or darts as they're called, sent down from Anchorage. It got stuck for reasons I don't know, but in any event, there will be a presentation. I don't know if there will be a demonstration or not. So now 2019, the most recent Sharing Our Knowledge conference, we included a tour of Kaagwaantaan on an Allen Marine boat, and as you can see, it was well attended and it was a beautiful day. And these are some of the things that happened, which included a book signing. We've done that a couple times. Teslin Storytellers, fortunately, our friends from Canada have joined us again. Bob Sam's Graveyard Tour, something you may want to talk about, Bob. Well, if you encounter him, he was here early this week and helped lead a cleanup effort to the local graveyard or graveyards. And then K2's coverage was, as usual, fabulous. And one of the main things they did K2 did was videotape this whole, or digitized, recording of this ceremony that of the return of the Sculpin Hat. And the Smithsonian Institution had taken the original hat, digitally recorded, scanned it, and then put it into a milling machine. And at this point, I want to do a shout out to George Reifenstein. He made this project possible. He's a great friend of the Sharing Our Knowledge Conference, a great friend of Tlingit people and the Kiks.adi clan, and he organized the purchase of the wood that was sent to, or the collection of the wood, the cedar and spruce that was sent to the Smithsonian that they used to do a computerized milling, and recreated almost to the most precise detail the hat. On our website, on the 2019 explanation on our front page, you'll find a link to the Smithsonian's presentation or video on this particular project. So anyway, in wrapping this up, available on our website are 2013, 2015, 2017, 2019, and as we speak, 2022, I'm going to upload soon 1993, 2007, 09, and 12, and those will soon join our video resources. So what's now available: photographs, conference programs, video recorded presentations, founding documents, and those are articles Andy wrote in 1992, 93, and various links. So I want to thank our planning committee. We had a really hard-working planning committee this year, always do, but it's a particularly gifted set of people who I was really honored to join as colleagues in helping to organize this. And now we're in Wrangell. It's been several months of hard work on all of our parts to make this happen, and I appreciate you all showing up. Thank you very much.
is in memory of donations. And we